Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from Houston, Texas, we have Nancy Leeds Gribble. Nancy is the founder and CEO of NourishLiftGrow. She specializes in empowering women in midlife and beyond, providing them with the tools and guidance for optimum health, weight loss, hormone balance, and body confidence. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here on Plant Your Seed. Before we get into the challenges women have that are over 50 as far as nutrition and lifestyle, I would like to start with your personal journey and transformation to a plant-based diet. How and when did you transition to a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so my journey really began a long time ago. When I was in my early 20s, became vegetarian, and it was instant. I had received, when I was very prone to the ocean growing up, and I had signed one of the banned the tuna nets because they were capturing dolphins. Mm-hmm. And of course, once you sign something, you're on a list. And so fast forward a few years, I'm in my kitchen with a friend and we are actually cooking chicken. And I get this PETA magazine and I open it up. It's the first time I've ever seen it. And right away was information on factory farming. And I was glued in a sad way. And I'm like, I will not be a part of that. And that day, I stopped eating all meat. Right then and there, never did again. But I was vegetarian because I still ate cheese. Fast forward, 17 years ago, I went vegan. I realized, connected the dots with the dairy. And then I would say around 11 years ago is when I really went plant-based vegan. And I do make the distinction because we can be unhealthy even as a vegan and vegetarian. I know, I raised my hand to that. And so it was really when focusing on now the health benefits and the power of plants. And all that transition, the reason it happened for me 10 years ago, I'm very upfront with everybody. My whole life, my goal was to be skinny. Like that, that was it. That's how I was raised. It was in that era. I was a chronic yo-yo dieter. Even as a vegan and vegetarian, I was unhealthy. I was Cliff Bars, Red Bull, French fries, and then, whatever else. And then in 2008, my world kind of came crashing down at the same time the market came crashing down. And I was a realtor, a very successful realtor in Florida. And my career just came to a complete stall. I had massive amounts of investment properties that went completely bankrupt. But the worst thing that happened was my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma, stage 4 cancer, which is brain cancer. And he was given 6 months to live. And it was at that time, of course, you're like, we've got to do everything we can to try to save you. And so doing all the research, now I'm planting the seed of health and the power of plants. And we tried everything, but unfortunately for him, it was already too aggressive. And he passed away in 2009. Long time. I'm dealing with like almost 1.5 million in bankruptcy from medical debts and investment debts, and lost my career. So my head is not, and trying to raise, I have a 2-year-old son. So my head is not in that space yet to make a switch. That's not where I was. Forward about 4 years, I meet somebody else. We start dating. We get serious. And I introduce him to my son, we get engaged, and I kind of have this feeling like, oh, life is on the upswing again. He has back issues. They tell him he has to have surgery. It's from a biking accident. He goes in to have surgery. They come out within like 30 minutes. And I'm like, wow, that was really fast. And they're like, we're not doing the surgery. And I said, why? And they said, he has end-stage pancreatic cancer. He has 2 weeks to live. Like, what? And, went through that whole process and all the things you have to do as a mom and, tell my son. But after all that, I started thinking, and I'm like, these are two people that on the outside looked really, really healthy. They looked healthy. They looked fit. They worked out. They both followed the standard American diet. They did. And, I don't ever toss blame their way. That's just kind of how our world is. Mm-hmm. But that's was my shift. And that's where I started realizing, wait a minute, Nancy, you've been entrusted by God as the sole parent to your young son, Alexander. You're older. You are ridiculously unhealthy. You've got to get your health in line. You don't know what's happening on the inside. And that is when I shifted from my focus of being skinny to being healthy as a vegan. And I really started diving into plant-based. And then I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition just to learn for myself what this is all about. And that's how my journey kind of moved along.
What were you thinking at that time when all of these things happened to you? Can you take us back to that moment that you found out about, I guess, your fiance at this point, where it's happening again?
Yeah.
What are you feeling at that moment?
When I found out in the moment, I mean, of course I was like, are you kidding me, God? And I'm like, you go through honestly, a whole array of emotions. And, of course, the why me, why him, why my husband, and anger and sadness, all of those things really come into play. In the moment, as weird as this is, because I had been through everything with my husband, in the moment, I knew I just needed to be there for my fiance. Like that was like this, that's quite a diagnosis, right? 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks is what he ended up living after that. And so I really just landed there. That was where I'm like, okay, my purpose right now is to be here for you. Then after that, my purpose is to navigate this with my son. It's a horrible Band-Aid to pull again. I said the two worst times in my life, or the first time I had to tell him his dad had passed away, and then now Peter. And so it's just just a lot of emotions. But what really happened after was the awareness. It really just struck me like, we have one life. This isn't a dress rehearsal. We're not playing around. There is so many things out of our control, except what we put in our plates, what we put in our state, our mind. These are things that we have control of. And I knew I couldn't stay in that fog anymore. And I also knew I couldn't rely on someone external coming into my life to make things, to have my second chance. Like I needed to give my second chance to myself. So as I went and learned all about health, because I wanted to be healthy for my son, I started like feeling better. My confidence was growing. I felt more powerful. Like there's something really powerful about knowing you're doing good for your body. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm doing this for me too. And it really changed the course of my life. It really did. And I am beyond blessed. I miss both of them every day. I'm blessed they were in my life, and I'm blessed that I was able to take the lesson. And now I feel it's a win-win for the animals and for my health, which is what I would like all around.
When you transition to a plant-based diet, as opposed to, I guess I would call it a junk food vegan diet.
Yeah.
What were some of the changes that you noticed? Obviously, vegan is doing the least amount of harm, so you feel kind of aligned with your values. But at the same time, your body really likes having whole food plant-based.
Yeah, I definitely felt aligned with my values. That was, and that's a good feeling. That's an excellent feeling. But I was always very tired. No matter what workouts I did, no matter what, I could not gain muscle. And I was a yo-yoer. I would, some days I would hardly eat anything, maybe chips, salsa, a power bar, some Red Bull, and then other days, I mean, I'm not saying I never ate a veggie or anything like that, but it was not top of mind. So it really was, I would say energy was probably the biggest thing that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And then my overall bloating, and then the big one for me was almost like a food freedom with weight consistency. I no longer was yo-yoing up and down. I mean, I could go anywhere from a 2 to 4 up into a 10, 12. I was that girl that had the whole closet,
Mm.
and my weight stayed the same. It didn't budge. And I have been the exact same weight now through menopause, through all the things. I haven't budged. My weight is the same. My body composition has changed, but not my weight.
Wow, that's fantastic. A
Yeah.
lot of times people are always on those yo-yo diets, right? And they try to figure out what they can do in order
Yeah.
to make themselves thin or feel better, right? But when you realize that it's about the lifestyle and not about the dieting, that's
Yes.
that's where the change happens.
Yes, I agree. It's really when you shift the focus to health, to longevity, that it really switches, and you realize the power of food. It's of plant-based food. It's unbelievable. It will heal. It will support. It will build our health. It will change our body composition in the right way. It's amazing, and it really is. So it starts in the mind, shifting from weight loss and being skinny to being strong, aging well, functionally, and not having to take medicine and all the things.
Right, right. Now, did you struggle with anything because you were obviously a junk food vegan and then you went to whole food plant based. Did you struggle with, I don't know, French fries? I don't
Well, I do to say, I say I delay, I don't deprive.
know.
I am 90% whole foods.
Sure.
I still might enjoy a French fry. For me, it was cooking. Honestly, I'm like, what do I do? I didn't grow up in a family where we cooked. I
Mm,
never cooked. I'm like, what do I do? And so learning how to put together meals. And in the beginning, and when I say in the beginning, I mean the first few years,
mm,
maybe 5, 6 years, I kept it simple.
mm-hmm.
Like I was like, okay, I just need 5 to 8 fruits, veggies a day. I need some fruit and I need some legumes. I kept it really, really like ingrained. And I wasn't trying to create anything. As I've progressed, I now can make meals
Mm-hmm.
and different things. So I would say cooking was the biggest one. And then eating out. Eating out was, a challenge in that I didn't want pasta everywhere I went. And
Sure.
I didn't want iceberg lettuce. So just navigating those two things. But with some planning, it all works out.
Now, how did you become a better cook? I mean, a lot of people ask me, well, because I happen to cook. I love cooking. And people always ask me, well, how did you learn how to cook? And I'm like, I don't know, my mom, I guess. I don't really know. But like, what do you do when you've never cooked before and you all of a sudden you're whole food plant based and you're like, I don't even know what these ingredients are and how do I cook them?
Yeah. I would just search well, I had some cookbooks that I loved, and I would just pick a recipe. I would be like, okay, I'm going to pick 1 or 2 recipes a week that
Mm,
I'm going to try. And that's what I did. And I started accumulating like my favorites, and they kind of came on a rotation, and then I would just add in more and add in more. And then I eventually went to the forks over knives cooking school to gain confidence. I'm like, how do you really chop up? How do you really chop a vegetable?
mm-hmm.
And so that taught me there. And there's really something about confidence with that helps in the cooking. And then last year, I became a culinary nutrition expert, and that really helped me, like how you plan out the menu and how you plan out, laying it all out and cooking and not being afraid. It's tricky because you're like, I don't want to waste any money, right? And make things that are bad, but you almost can't go wrong. It's all going to end up in the same place. So if you figure it may not be Instagram worthy, but it's still worthy for your stomach, and it's all right.
Was there one thing that might have been holding you back from becoming vegan? Like you had talked about cheese, and that was something that had held you back from transitioning from a vegetarian to a vegan. Was there anything else that was, say, holding you back from going from vegan to whole food plant-based?
Awareness. I know that sounds lame. I just wasn't aware. It wasn't in my wheelhouse. I did not grow up in an environment where nutrition was even discussed. I am your typical person that marketing, like you could market to me, like just don't eat anything with fat. Don't eat this, don't eat that. I'm like, okay, I'm not eating it. And so I really think it was awareness. Great. Whole foods are great, but I don't have time for that. Oh, I'm busy, very busy. Don't have time figure all that out. So I'll just eat this, whatever. And as long as I'm eating something and I'm skinny, all is good.
Where did you get the courage to change your whole life? You had these tragedies happen to you, and now you're sitting there. You've told your son, you're trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
And how do you get the courage to just continue and to make this change?
When you hold the hand of two people that you love very much, that are your world, as they take their last breath, you go, I have to honor the life that I have. They would give anything to still be here, right? Anything. I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still the sole parent for my son. I've got to make the best of it. And I've got to figure it out. And I really, with everything I have, I believe in that motto: if you have your health, you have a million dreams. If you don't, you have one. And I'm like, I'm going to tackle the health thing first. And it really is almost an honor to their legacy, an honor to them, that I said, I won't wither away. I wanted to. For when my husband passed away, people were on the lookout for me. Like I was like, not this. This is not what this is. Life is too hard. But here I am with a 2-year-old, and I'm like, oh, I got to be here. And so I really think the courage stemmed from just that awareness. Again, I know I use that word a lot, but all change starts with awareness. And it really was like, this isn't my husband was 52, Peter was 61. They were young,
right?
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something. And the other part with switching my whole career, I was back in real estate, learning all the short sale things. It was a struggle because I'm a single mom now,
right?
And the market is definitely not the same. But I realized that also one life, one time to be a parent. I don't want to be away every night and weekend. And so when I went to IIN and I started learning everything, and I really started just devouring the information, I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Food does this, food does that. And then I went on I just was hooked. And I just continued.
What is one thing that's really exciting for you right now in your life?
I think opportunity. I think opportunity have the opportunity to work with amazing women and watch their lives change. I have opportunity to still do different things in my own life, and I'm grateful every day that I have that. So that's a general, but that's something that I'm excited about every day in my life, is what opportunities are arising.
What is it about nutrition and lifestyle that makes you so passionate?
It's energizing. It's something that we really have a say over in our life. And when you start taking care of your nutrition and you start focusing on all the nutrients, and then you add in fitness, one, all the aging myths, not that we're not aging, but all the myths of it's all downhill, you realize they go away. We have the ability to not just add these years to our life, but to really life to our years, to still do things that we love, to travel, take on new adventures. And it really does start with nutrition. The way our world was designed with the plants and the nutrients that they give us is amazing. Like when you really start to study it, and when you really start to study food and the vitamins and the minerals that it has and the impact it has on your body, it's fascinating that this was all put together.
No, you're right.
I find it fascinating.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's move over to NourishLiftGrow. Okay, you're the CEO and founder of that company. How can women 50 and over speed up their metabolism so that they can lose weight?
Yeah. One, I mean, I have good news for them. Like all the things that they think they have to do, eat less and work out more, is not what we do when we're over 50. One, you've got to get those whole foods. Like that is just a necessity. You've got to get in the fiber. But also I teach on, with my clients, I teach on macronutrients, which is our proteins, our fats, and our carbs, and all in the plant-based space. Each individual needs a certain amount of those based on their age, their height, their lifestyle, their goals. And once you get these in the right balance, your macronutrients and your micronutrients, your body thrives. Your hormones balance out, and it's amazing. And your metabolism will speed up, doing some strength training in there too. I have to put that in. That's the lift part.
What are some of the reasons that women over 50 can't lose weight?
They buy into the myth of that they think they can't. And they think it's just their hormones. And what I've seen is a tendency where it's kind of backwards. They're like, oh, I've got to go get hormone replacement therapy. Then I'll feel better. Then I can start eating better. Then I might rest better. And then I can start working out. It's got to go the other way. You've got to get your nutrition balanced first. And then rest is key for women. I mean, it's key at rest and recovery. And then strength training, as we age, I don't know if women know this, we have two age-related diseases: osteopenia, which is our bone density deteriorating, and sarcopenia, which is our muscle loss. And we need to keep both of those up. And strength training coupled with good whole food protein will do that. And so, I say go nutrition first, rest and recovery, strength training, daily movement of walking. Then if you need some supplements, you might need some supplements. Then if you need some pharmaceuticals. But the main reason most women, they think, nope, it's just my hormones. It won't happen for me. And a lot of that can be based on because it's never happened, because maybe like me, they were a yo-yo dieter and they've tried all the things. And I'm just like, try again. We've got something good here.
How does a plant-based diet affect perimenopausal women?
Oh, gosh, you end up getting more fiber. So right there, you're able to release excess hormones, excess toxins, your gut gets better. That right there helps the balance of the hormones. We focus on the healthy fats that you're getting, which are great for your thyroid hormones, your sex hormones, and then your healthy carbohydrates, which I know so many women are like, no, I'm terrified of carbs. Carbs are our primary fuel source. And a lot of women who go keto will start telling you they're really moody and they're cranky. And it's because they're not getting that energy source that they need. We do not fear the carbs. We need those healthy plant-based carbs, those grains, those vegetables, but you need them in the right balance. And so that's what I teach. I'm like, even healthy, we don't want you eating 10 bags of nuts. That you might not lose weight if you're doing that. I want you to eat all the foods in the right balance. Soy was persona non grata for a long time. And now the research has flipped and they realize that soy actually helps women with a lot of the menopausal symptoms of especially hot flashes. And I really believe I'm a testament to that. My whole time frame, I've been in that period, that time frame of being in menopause, and I had very little hot flashes, very little symptoms. And I ate soy and tempeh and all the different nutrients that your body needs to thrive. And so it's hormones are very complicated, and that could be like a whole nother podcast. But it really when your body feels like it's getting the right amounts of nutrients, and when it knows it can also release through fiber what it doesn't need, you start seeing changes and you start feeling better and you feel more energized.
How much do environmental factors, stuff like social media, play into our perception of who we are and what we should look like?
So much. I mean, that's, one of the things I will say is be careful what you consume, right? And that's not just what's on your plate. That's what you're watching, what you're scrolling, the news, which can be devastating on any given day. We have to be really careful. Marketing, first of all, is huge. And when you really start diving into how marketing has played into the nutrition and dietary choices, it's crazy, not about health at all. It's of course about the bottom line, but it's sold as health. We believe it. And then the comparison trap of you see somebody on social media and you start thinking, well, why can't I be like that person or this or that? And you have to be able to tune that out and remember, most people on social media are putting their best self forward right there. A lot of it is airbrushed, and and you have to just go inward and go, what are you doing for you? Like that, you have to bring it back, but being careful what you consume and who you surround yourself with, because not everybody wants to see you get healthy. Not everybody wants to see you change. They might think that they do, but they also know they might be losing their dinner buddy or their, some drinking buddy or whatever it is that you might be changing. So I'm not saying you have to get rid of people, but you do have to be aware that you might have to make some changes in that too.
Has that ever happened to you as far as losing a drinking buddy, a dinner buddy?
Yeah, for definitely. I mean, I became especially when I was younger, I was like, when people would just want to go out to dinner and then they're like, Nancy, she can't eat here. She won't eat here. So they stopped inviting me, but I was fine with it. I'm like, some of them, we just did other things it wasn't like I had to get rid of every friend. We just kind of switched around the things that we had in common anymore. And then I went and searched for people I had stuff in common with. Because you definitely need community, no matter what you're doing. Like, it's great to have community, a plant-based community. It's great to have, the women I work with, we put them in a community of other women going through the same things. Like, you need that to keep you motivated and going and knowing that you're not alone. But you don't want to be afraid either just like you want to release the weight, some of that weight could be the people or things that are holding you down. And they're not bad people. They just, you just have to know what you want. Do you want to, elevate your life in this way or stay stuck?
So what are the biggest challenges for women over 50?
They do it all. I think it's the constant, they're the caregivers. And then when you get into this age of being in your 50s, you have kids, maybe if you have a family, you have kids that are now getting ready to go off to college.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you might be caring for parents. And what happens, that always has happened, is women tend to put themselves on the back burner. They put themselves on the back burner and their to-do list gets bigger. Women, which is great. We can have careers, we can have all these things. We've had more added to our plate without any of the responsibilities being taken away. So the responsibility that goes is, oh, I'll get to myself later. I don't have time. I'll do it next week, which turns into next month, which turns into next year. And then one day you wake up and you look in the mirror and you're like, who is that? Like, that is not who I thought I wanted to be, how I thought I would look or feel at this age. And then you pile on hormones, which is, I would call it midlife mayhem. It's like, what? And it just all piles on. And I think there's a part where they just kind of feel this is all there is. This is it. I'm fine, I think is the kiss of death. I'm fine. I should be happy. It doesn't matter. I'm getting older anyway. Just accept it. And it's those things. I talk a lot with women. I call it the midlife manifesto. And I say, when we're younger, we plot, right? Are we going to go to school? Do we want a family? What do we think our career will be? We think about how we want our life to be, and then we work towards it. We're proactive. Then somewhere along the line, we get very reactive, especially women taking care of families, just maybe career, all the things. And then we stop. And so I want them to get proactive again. I want them to really envision, before they start any dietary change, anything like that, really envision how you want this second season of life to be, how they want to feel, how they want to look, what they want to be doing, because it's so key. That's what's going to sustain them for making any changes. And, of course, when you start thinking that, all the thoughts come in of, well, I'm too old. That's not going to happen. I'm crazy. And I'm like, just throw those thoughts away right now. Just get it all out and let's pick one. And it's so key because it is tough making changes. And we live in a world that wants us to be in this norm. And while we're here trying to create a new normal, right? Like, let's get plant-based and being healthy, not to be considered extreme, right? Like, this should be the norm. They have to make these changes. And I always say, it's not, if it's going to get tough, if you're going to have a little bit of a struggle, it's just win. And you need to have that deeper reason, that why, that vision as to why you're going to keep going, because losing 5 pounds isn't going to do it. Like, right. If it did, none of us would have been yo-yo dieters. We would have, lasted. So I think that's really, really key, but it's realizing their worth, to take time and do things. And it doesn't take all the time. You don't have to spend hours in the gym. You don't have to be a great cook. You can start simple. 30-minute workouts, especially for women over 50, is actually better. So you have to just put yourself on the to-do list.
So how do we change that? How do we create self-love?
We have to speak. It's the words we speak to ourselves. If we know if beating ourselves up created change, we would all, be millionaires and all the things. So we really have to show ourselves the same compassion that we would show to somebody else. You wouldn't, if a friend was to go say something, you wouldn't beat them up. You wouldn't go with them and start beating them up. You would nourish them. You would be compassionate. And we have to be that with ourselves. Mirror work is great. Mirror work, I've done it with a few clients where it's like every morning you have to go in and start at the top of your head and go all the way down and thank your individual body parts. And it sounds weird, but it's so effective because we forget how much our bodies do for us. And a lot of women, we're all looking at the middle weight gain, and it's like, but then if you've had babies, if you've done a lot of things, it's like, hello, your body did all that. And so it's showing compassion, and you still can want to improve. You still, of course, want to be your healthiest self. You still, if you have body composition goals, there's no problem with that, but always show compassion for what your body has done and what it's able to do.
As far as a habit or tip or hack that you have, what do you use to stay on a plant-based diet?
Well, I think one is honestly the why. I mean, that's kind of like every day I know health is top priority for me. So that helps. But as far as tangibles, it's planning. It's if you don't plan, it can be rough when you go out. And so just a little pre-planning, knowing, again, the way I want people to get like protein at every meal and different things. But, if you're going to a restaurant, just call ahead, find out what they have. All my friends know, and they were embarrassed by me in the beginning. And I'm like, too bad. If I have to bring my own food, I bring my own food. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'll get the salad. I won't, I'll put the salad, but then I'll throw my tofu on it, or I'll throw my legumes or edamame or whatever. I want a full meal. I have no shame. I'm like, no shame. I always say I'm AKA the vegan. Everybody, when you go to the restaurant, they're like, who's the vegan? Who's the vegan? Like, that's me, the vegan. But plan, and don't be afraid to stand your ground. Like, we don't have to be rude. We don't have to be disrespectful. But at the same point, I know a lot of women will be like, well, I just ate that. I didn't want to make a ruckus. You don't have to make a ruckus, but stand your ground. Like, I don't want butter with that. I don't want that. And if people look at you like the gal from Harry Met Sally when she's ordering all the sides, so what?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's okay. I think the thing is, it's okay. Plan and be okay with what you're doing, is really, yeah. But planning, and sometimes planning can go awry, and you get stuck. And then be okay that day may not be the best eating day. You may end up back eating the fries. It happens.
Now, what is the most rewarding thing that you do?
In life?
In life and helping people.
Oh, the most rewarding is when a woman gets the aha. Is honestly when I primarily work with women, but when she comes and she's like, well, I don't think this is going to work. I've tried everything. And I'm like, just be open to the process, open to adding in those whole foods, open to following this plan. And then it clicks and they're like, oh my gosh, it's possible. So I'm always like, don't look for easy, look for possible. It's possible. And that aha moment it's the best. It's the best. And then they usually, once you start feeling better, that's when it all starts sticking. And then it's longevity and it's sustainable and it's a beautiful thing.
What cookbook, book, or documentary have you gifted or recommended most to someone transitioning to a plant-based diet?
Oh, well, documentary. I love Forks Over Knives. It's the oldie but goodie. It's, I think, very powerful. I love that book. I love for somebody trying to, when they're like, I don't even know what to do with being vegan. PCRM, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, has a 21-day vegan kickstart. I've told tons and tons of people about that. I'm like, it's so well done. It's easy to follow. And then I personally, that the books that kind of helped me in the beginning were from the Joyful Vegan. She had vegan baking, which I was like, I can do this. My family likes it. Like, it was like something you could make vegan that everybody was like, this is delicious. I'm like, thank you. And and she has a lot of other cookbooks, and so hers. But I do feel Forks Over Knives is great. Game Changers is great. And there's so many other ones now out there too.
Finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan, and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
Yeah, I thought about this. I was like, I think the word before was just an uninformed I have two word wanderer, like, but just really uninformed. I was just doing life, like being reactive to life, being reactive to taking care of myself. It wasn't anything I gave thought to. So I would say I was a very uninformed person.
And how do you feel now?
I feel impactful. I feel I have a lot of impact on my own life, on my family's life, on the animals, and then on the clients I get to help. And that is a great feeling.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What is the best way for people to contact you, either on Instagram, the web, or social media in general?
Yeah, it's super easy because everything is my name, Nancy Leeds Gribble. So my website is nancyleedsgribble.com. And then I'm primarily on Instagram at Nancy Leeds Gribble.
Thanks again, Nancy, for being on Plant Your Seed.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.